of the importance of constantly working.
Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine addresses the Select Board in the ongoing controversy of Lieutenant Rick Pedrini. He also answers petitioners on how the town handled this very sensitive case. Where does Arlington now go from here? That Civil War memorial at Mass Ave and Broadway has been here for well over a century, but have you really ever taken a good look at it? We have a great new way for you to re-see this hallowed work of art. And Old Glory is once again waving in front of Arlington's high school, each one honoring a hero who has touched the lives of people who are determined to make sure that hero is never forgotten. 1971, the Patriots get a new GM. What was it like building what would eventually become an NFL dynasty? It wasn't easy. It involved overflowing toilets, terrifying traffic jams, and yes, near-fatal news conferences. No joke.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News. At this week's Select Board meeting, the town responded to a petition regarding the case of Lieutenant Richard Pedrini. Hello, I'm Eleni Kaminas.
And I'm James Milan. You'll recall Pedrini's accused of making racist remarks and other disturbing statements last year in a police publication. He was suspended, went through Arlington's restorative justice process, and then was reinstated last April. Still, more than 1,000 residents signed a petition wanting more transparency from town leaders in the Pedrini case. And they wanted more action taken against the police lieutenant. Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine addressed the Select Board and his critics at the October 28th meeting.
What I did last night was say some things that I think I should have said in my letter to the community back over the summer. Primarily that being that I do indeed believe that Lieutenant Pedrini's writings were racist. I wanted to be clear that I wasn't stating that he himself was a racist, but his writings certainly were. And that it's my hope that by calling it out for what it is, we could take the next steps forward in addressing it, working on the bias, implicit and explicit, that we all have, and the fact that we need to acknowledge that bias before we can move past it as people, as organizations, and as a society. So that's how I started last night. I've been in a lot of ways torn up about this issue because to be criticized by people you disagree with sometimes can be easier than to be criticized by people you agree with. And I think in this matter, I've been primarily criticized by people that I generally agree with. I condemn the writings of Lieutenant Pedrini just like these folks do. Wasn't very happy that he did it. I think, though, where I disagree with them is that I do believe in his redemption and the redemption of people that have certain thoughts and views, and that rather than just trying to feel like as though we can eliminate those views, that we need to talk about those views and have people grow and come to a common understanding so that we can move forward. So I think that's where the disagreement lies.
Other requests in the petition that the town manager agreed to: having more meetings in order to rebuild community trust, and assessing the police department for potential bias.
Despite a politically divided nation, veterans in Arlington say they are always proud to display the American flag. Over 100 are flying in front of the high school along Mass Ave, thanks to the Rotary Club of Arlington. Each year, the club sells sponsorships for Flags for Heroes. ACMi's Brenda Mahoney caught up with volunteers as they worked to raise the flags, getting a view on what Old Glory means to them.
The flags on the Arlington High School lawn pop up every year this time of year to honor heroes, those who have served in wars and others that simply played an important role in someone's life.
Probably 45 to 55% are veterans, but there are a lot of EMTs, a lot of service people that are in, a lot of grandparents. This is a common ground. I believe in a lot of things that people would say that I'm left-wing and socialist, but I also am very proud of the country. I'm proud of the service that I did in the military, and I'm very proud of this flag and all that it represents.
How do you feel about Old Glory?
I'm very proud of it. Proud to be an American. Except for what's going on now. Things will change. They always do, and eventually, for the better. Sometimes you have to hit the bottom before you rise up again.
This will be the last year to see these flags on the lawn here at Arlington High School because it's going to be taken up by a new school. But they'll be back again in the future. Flags for heroes not going away. Brenda Mahoney, ACMi News.
The flags will be dedicated in honor of Heroes Sunday, November 3rd at 1 p.m. at the high school. Funds raised by the Rotary Club go towards scholarships for high schoolers.
As ACMi News reported last week, Arlington lost its fight with the state's Housing Appeals Committee, where it sought safe harbor from the so-called Mugar development project. Town leaders say the state rejected the town's assertion that it had safe harbor status, meaning Arlington does not have enough affordable housing to prevent the Mugar property from development. The proposed building would be a 219-unit housing project in East Arlington between Thorndike Field and Route 2. It's been tied up in legal red tape for 3 years before the state rendered its decision in mid-October. The matter was also taken up before the Select Board this week.
You know, the interesting part about this is we believe in our position and still would claim that our position was accurate. But over the past 5 or 6 years, a handful of communities have tried to make the same arguments that we have and also been overturned by the HAC. So based on that, we're not necessarily surprised by this outcome, but still feel that the fight that we did put forward was the right fight.
Arlington's Zoning Board of Appeals will now take up the matter, pitting the developer against the town, which has rejected the proposal because of environmental and traffic concerns.
Here's something you don't see every day. Well, you may see it every day, but not in this way. This is the Civil War monument at Mass Ave and Broadway, taken from one of our ACMi drone cameras. This monument was dedicated in the 1880s and cost $14,000 to erect. It consists of granite from Quincy, Vermont, and Rhode Island, and bears the names of the Arlington men who died in the Civil War from 1861 through 1865, fighting in battles from Bull Run to Appomattox. It stands 42 feet tall and is 18 feet in diameter at its base. This ornamental column is topped with a granite eagle perched on a small dome. The sides of this column are adorned with 4 fluted sculptures, lion heads, and wreaths. Just a different view of such a magnificent work of art dedicated to those Arlingtonians who fought for the freedoms we all enjoy and never got to come home to their loved ones. Our thanks to Adam Belonsky and Tyler Valancourt for their great work, taking such a unique look at something many of us casually pass every day, but every now and then we should pause and take a good look.
The New England Patriots so far are having yet another banner year. The Belichick-Brady years have spawned a football dynasty, the likes of which we may never see again in our lifetime or ever.
But the Patriots had what some could call a near false start. They may be 6-time Super Bowl champs now, but in the beginning they were known as the Foxborough Follies and other terms we can't use on TV. As we celebrate 100 years of the NFL, ACMi's news director Jeff Barn talks to the former Pats general manager who endured a 2-year-long Hail Mary.
February 1969. The 4-10 Boston Patriots went from hapless to hellish. A fresh infusion of managers could not come soon enough. A Patriots news conference was hastily announced, where the Pats' brand new head coach, Cleve Rush, would welcome another new hire, general manager George Sauer. Rush grabbed the microphone to make some opening remarks. Then, all hell broke loose. Rush could not let go of the microphone. He screamed and stammered toward the corner of the conference room, facing certain electrocution before horrified reporters.
And if somebody hadn't pulled the plug out of the wall, they would have had a coach DOA on delivery. I mean, true story. That was the first thing.
The second thing was that despite Rush's survival, nothing improved for the Rush-Sauer duo in '69. The Pats lost the first 7 games of another ghastly season. Both men would skip town within months. Team president Billy Sullivan desperately resolved to look for a leader who could finally eradicate this unceasing curse. '71, the Baltimore Colts won Super Bowl V, an offensive steamroller of a team with a rabidly loyal blue-collar fan base. The Colts' young personnel director, 32-year-old Upton Bell, hailed from football royalty. His father, Bert Bell, ruled the National Football League as its commissioner for 13 years and navigated 12 teams through some very dark days, saving the NFL from self-destructing more times than the football faithful ever knew. Sullivan, a former PR virtuoso who headed an unruly band of investors, immediately offered Upton Bell the job of Patriots general manager at $45,000 a year.
Well, I made it with a lot of shock therapy.
At his welcoming news conference in Boston, Bell, unaware of the near-death scare years before, was told not to touch the mic. He then told the room of skeptical reporters that the Patriots team would be entirely rebuilt into a winner.
Somebody, the first writer at that time, the Patriots weren't considered big. The New York Football Giants were still it here, and the Boston Herald had a full-time writer covering the Giants, not the Patriots. So he raised his hand and he said, "Mr. Bell, why would anybody who came from a great organization ever want to come here?" That was my first question. From then on in, it was semi-downhill. Essentially, I mean, there were so many factions here. There were 4 or 5 major owners, and there was a board of directors. And actually, I had finally gotten a phone at home and gave my number to all of them, but when it rang, I never picked it up. So I would avoid all of the cross-fighting and all of the problems. And Billy Sullivan and I didn't get along at all. In the end, it was a fight over wanting to get rid of the coach, but a bigger fight in that Sullivan didn't like all the publicity I was getting. I was just trying to build a championship team, and we sold the stadium out. We were doing well.
Selling stadiums out. The Boston Patriots were essentially homeless, laughable vagabonds of the NFL. Tickets were made for Patriots home games at Boston University's Nickerson Field, Boston College's Alumni Stadium, Fenway Park on Yawkey Way, and Harvard Stadium.
They turn for home. Windsock, Missile, and Jack Supat battling for the lead.
Hope for the Patriots' permanent dream home finally came from the owners of a harness racing track 30 miles south of Boston in the sleepy town of Foxborough. They donated the acreage to Billy Sullivan in order to keep the team in New England. Construction for the new stadium was already underway. Sullivan, desperate to keep things under budget, cut corners everywhere he could. His low-cost approach would soon come back to haunt him. He did, however, find a company willing to pay $150,000 to give the stadium its name.
Schaefer is the one beer to have when you're having more than one.
More than one, of course, is a prime diuretic. And here's where Sullivan's miserly gambit flunked.
We're now opening a new stadium in Foxborough, put together with stringing wire. The toilets and the plumbing didn't work because where the stadium is built, the water can't run uphill. So they call the owners, there's about 10 of them, and myself, and we go out on a Saturday. NFL Films that happened to be there because they wanted to, shoot for the game. Here we are, and they get on the loudspeaker system and they go, 1, 2, 3, flush. And everybody flushes at the same time, and the toilets work, at least for the time being. They hadn't figured that if you're going to have 30,000 cars coming down a slim Route 1, that you could have a traffic jam. It ended up being the largest traffic jam in Massachusetts history. There are still cars out there.
By this time, Sullivan had had it. So had Bell. After 2 years as the Patriots' general manager, Upton Bell was fired.
But one thing you learned in life, there are owners and there are renters. I was a renter. And you're always going to be in the NFL today. If you don't own a team, you are a renter. The renter got thrown out of his apartment by Sullivan. That's the bottom line.
But not before Upton Bell left an everlasting hallmark. They were first known as the Boston Patriots, then the Bay State Patriots.
Somebody like Bud Collins or somebody else said, of course they could be called the BS Patriots. And when I saw that, they were also making fun of Sullivan because he was BS, Billy Sullivan. I immediately, that week, got in touch with all the owners and I said, listen, We're moving to Foxborough. We're going to be in the middle of New England between Providence and Boston. I propose let's name them the New England Patriots. It's one of the few things I got pushed through. They agreed with it, and that's why they're called that today.
Today, the ticket machines need no more calibration. And a team name change is highly unlikely. That's no BS.
A lot of people, Dan Shaughnessy knows it, few other people know it, but they don't know that I did name the team the New England Patriots. I got my pound of flesh.
For ACMi News, I'm Jeff Barnes.
Coming up next, as ACMi News continues, a moving documentary about a speech JFK made 56 years ago, just prior to his assassination. An inspiring film that explores the dramatic relationship between two seminal Americans, our 35th president and poet Robert Frost at the height of the Cold War. It's part of the Arlington International Film Festival. Next.
We all go a little mad sometimes. Have you checked on the children? The ghoulish sentinels of All Hallows Eve have encroached on Arlington. We sent a reporter to get some video of the Halloween decor adorning Arlington. Did he survive? You must wait to find out.
If you see news happening in your area and you have a smartphone, you can see it, shoot it, send it. Make sure to hold your phone horizontally and send us your video. Or share your video with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just look for ACMi News.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
The Arlington International Film Festival kicked off its 9th annual event on October 25th at Town Hall with a special screening of JFK, The Last Speech, a speech our 35th president gave to Amherst College students just weeks before his assassination. Even though JFK's address took place nearly 60 years ago, it still remains fresh in these troubled times. Here's ACMi reporter Charlotte Pierce.
Many artists are remembered through the centuries, yet very few politicians are. Tonight, we're taking a look at the intersection of poetry and politics. We talked with Bestor Cram, the producer-director of JFK, The Last Speech, at the kickoff event for the Arlington International Film Festival, which opens November 7th.
It was late October 1963, the height of the Cold War.
When power corrupts, poetry cleanses.
John F. Kennedy gave a remarkable address to the students at Amherst College.
And it's a speech that reveals a degree of eloquence and his understanding of sort of the role in which he imagined the power of the presidency would continue to be expressed. It isn't a speech that got a lot of consideration. Because of his assassination, we lost his words, and we lost the meaning sometimes behind his words as we came to terms with our own grief and trying to struggle with the change that this country was going through at that particular time.
The huge potential of a college audience like this didn't escape Kennedy.
He gave this speech because he was eulogizing Robert Frost. He gave a speech out at Amherst College. So the film covers all of those things, as well as some of Amherst graduates who attended the school dedication of the library, heard Kennedy, and had their lives reshaped by the challenge that Kennedy gave them in terms of the way in which they were going to express themselves for the next 50 years.
Word for word, one of the best Kennedy ever delivered.
It's the fascinating story behind the speech given just weeks before his assassination.
He wanted to have language that mattered.
JFK, the last speech.
Thanks to our reporter, Charlotte Pierce, for this report. I was lucky enough to be there that night and see an excellent film, and also to get to talk to Bester Cram about the film afterwards. He's made 35 films over many, many years and winning an Academy Award in the process. So again, it's a good example of what kind of quality the Arlington International Film Festival brings to our town. So again, the festival will take place on November 7th through the 10th at the Capitol Theater.
If you've passed by our studio of late, you'll notice we have two very imposing guests. Be very afraid. They're here to scare you away, along with the cool, damp autumnal weather we had during the week, leading up to All Hallows Eve. Despite the ghoulish looks, the rains came anyway. But before the nasty fall weather set in, we did get a sneak peek at some of the goblins that invaded Arlington.
If there's something strange in our neighborhood, who are you going to call?
Our news intern, Harvey Kelly. He drew the short straw and braved the chilly fall, howling northeastern winds to find Jack-o'-lantern and his coterie of peeps.
It's Halloween in Arlington, and people throughout town have taken the opportunity to deck their homes out with the spookiest of decorations. Pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns, goblins, ghouls, skeletons, witches, spiders, and even dragons are on full display here throughout town. And I'll be honest, I'm terrified. Honestly, I'd rather take my chances at the Bates Motel. I miss Christmas. Oh, thank goodness. Just a nice nature shot without any spooky... pumpkin! It's looking me right in the eyes. It sees my soul. Well, I am afraid of spiders, so let's just back away slowly. Ooh, flowers. Oh, and skeletons. Great. I liked it better when she was blurry. Patriotism. Now that's scary. Just the boys hanging out on the porch enjoying a nice day. There's nothing scary about friendship. Alright, that's it. I'm out. I don't feel safe here anymore. See you later, Arlington. Call me when it's Thanksgiving.
Now that we're well into fall season, there are many activities taking place at Arlington High School.
We have all your Arlington sports action, but first, let's go to Studio B with a look at your Ponderscope for this week.
Welcome to the Ponderscope, your Arlington High School news, updates, and more. On Thursday, November 7th at 7 p.m., AHS will present its third annual Music Tech Choral Concert. This concert is a showcase for all of the amazing work the Music Tech students create, and will also include choir performances. It'll be a night to remember, so come on by. Admission is free. Starting next week, the Student Council will be selling raffle tickets for a chance to win a parking spot in the teacher's lot for second term. Tickets will be sold at lunches, and you can buy 2 for $1 or 5 for $3. The raffle will be November 8th. Good luck. Are you in a band? Do you want to perform on Arlington's biggest stage? If so, participate in Stand Club's Battle of the Bands on January 25th. There will be an informational meeting for any interested bands on Wednesday, November 13th after school in Mr. Barrasa's room, 305. The page to order your yearbooks is now open. The first deadline to purchase a yearbook is November 24th. If you order your yearbook now, you will be purchasing it at the lowest cost. If you need assistance ordering your yearbook, please find Miss Donahue or Mrs. Clark. The order link can be found on the Daily Post. I'm Chandler Betts, and this has been The Ponderscope. Now sending it over to Nick for this week's sports update.
Welcome back, Arlington sports fans. As we approach the end of the week, we are starting to figure out who our Spy Ponders will be facing in the first round of the playoffs. Boys soccer looks like they'll be finishing off their season as the 9th seed, and according to some of the players, it looks like they'll either be matched up against Concord or Boston Latin Academy in the first round. Unfortunately, no matter which of these teams they end up playing, they'll be on the road. These results are not yet confirmed, and the official results will be released on Friday. Speaking of boys soccer, they played their season finale last Friday against Reading Memorial, where they finished off their season on a high note with a 1-0 win. Girls soccer also beat Reading last Friday with a final score of 3-0, and then finished off their season this past Monday tying Winchester 1-1.
Sophie sends it to Anneli. Anneli gets to it. Anneli's gonna fake it back. Still has it, turns around. Oh, beautiful pass, and a goal! Go, 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 go by Anna!
Football finished off the regular season last Friday against the tough Winchester side, and unfortunately lost 34-13. Now that the fall season is closing, we are beginning to look ahead to the winter season for our Spy Ponders. If you're interested in helping to cover any of these games, stop by Studio B right across the street from the high school, or email sports@acmi.tv. We're always looking for new students who are interested in sports production. But before we go ahead to the winter season, we wish our Spy Ponders the best of luck in the playoffs. Make sure to tune in next week to find out how they did in the first round of tournament play. I'm Nick Antonakis from Studio B. Back to you at Studio A.
That'll do it for ACMi News. Don't forget to stay with us for all your latest news and sports updates. I'm James Milan.
And I'm Eleni Kaminas. Thanks so much for joining us from Studio A. We'll see you next week.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.